by Xi Jinping at the 19th Party Congress in October 2017, when he put it quite bluntly, in fact. This is about ascending to the top of the world. That's how Xinhua, our commentary described it. We don't seek that kind of preeminence, but equally we do not admit a subordinate station. So this is one contradiction. When we look at these two national rejuvenation projects which are unfolding in parallel, there is a fundamental contradiction there. That Chinese project is based on hierarchy, which will not acknowledge a peer nation. Whereas we will not concede hierarchy, with India being a subordinate power. Whereas we seek multipolarity in Asia. Chinese will acknowledge multipolarity globally, but they will never accept multipolarity in Asia.
大家好，这里是感人四绝频道。刚才精彩集锦里，几位印度专家轮番登场，先是把中国描述成不容亚洲多极格局的霸权，又把边境、贸易、科技甚至周边国家的动向，统统串成一张步步进逼的大网。听起来气势汹汹，仿佛印度只要坐在台下点头，就已经输掉了整场竞争。可问题是，嘴上把中国说的无所不能，台上却不断承认印度在经济、军力、科技和战略整合上都存在差距。这种一边渲染对手无敌，一边强调自己绝不屈居人下的说法，多少有些尴尬。更耐人寻味的是，他们把中国的发展目标解读成等级秩序，却又不得不承认中国的产业能力、基础设施和长期规划正在改变亚洲现实。那么中国的大战略究竟是如何形成的？印度又为什么一再陷入边境牵制、外部依赖和战略摇摆？接下来三位专家将从历史、军事、经济和外交多个角度展开分析。那些看似慷慨激昂的判断，究竟是准确研判，还是被焦虑放大的想象？正片马上开始。
Border diplomatically, so over to you, Ashok.
Thank you, sir. Admiral Rajamenon has brought out many aspects of China's grand strategy. I'll take a slightly different approach because China has never officially articulated its grand strategy. So looking for a formal blueprint of grand strategy, perhaps a search which may not yield any concrete results. Instead, it's a derived. We can derive what they mean by grand strategy, not by just looking at what the Communist Party of China says, but in fact stepping back, because there is a striking consistency of direction sustained across different leaderships, external environments, when China talks about what it wants to achieve. And when the Communist Party of China relates its own story, and that story, put very simply, is that under Mao, China stood up. Under Deng, it grew prosperous. Under Xi, since 2012, it's becoming strong. And each stage is measured against a single, much older goal that predates the party itself by decades. That is the great rejuvenation of Chinese nation, the Chinese dream, which is today targeted for 1949, which is centenary of the establishment of People's Republic of China. But actually, the entire rejuvenation project is rooted in a civilizational self-conception. It's a narrative which has been around since late 19th century. And this narrative, very simply, one aspect is what they call Tianxia, an ordering of the world with China at center, and two concepts which keep recurring and which is defined very directly by Chinese over a period of time. One is Fuqiang, which is wealth and power, other is Fuxing, a revival. So party state, in fact, frames China's rise and its global preeminence in terms of a restorative project. What they're trying to do is to restore the historical norm which had been interrupted by the century of national humiliation. So they're not asking for anything new. That was the norm which was disturbed. They just wanted to bring it back. Here, it's very important to add one qualification because it changes how we should read all of this. Now, much of this project is not really communist in character. If you ask a counterfactual, in one article recently, I posed this question: what would have happened if Kuomintang had won the civil war and come to power in 1949? Would it have changed things fundamentally for India? Possibly not. My answer is that, Chiang Kai-shek was talking about, Tibet being a part of China. He had reiterated in 1943, 1946, during the Civil War period. This Fuxing impulse, which I talked about, runs continuously from late Qing reformers through Sun Yat-sen to Chiang Kai-shek to Mao Zedong to Deng over to Xi Jinping. So it's a continuous strain which is running through. What is different in case of Communist Party of China is not the underlying ambition, which hasn't changed, but the instrumentation, the ability of the Leninist state to deliver what Kuomintang state, with all its sort of weaknesses, though again one doesn't know how it would have shaped up, or perhaps could not have. This distinction matters because when we look at China, we should respond to China that is actually in front of us. Not a China imagined either as an implacable civilizational rival or a partner merely awaiting the right gestures. Because this is a China, which perhaps had been pursuing a certain goal at least since the late 19th century. Either way, whether it's a rival or partner waiting to be wooed, one thing is very clear: the Chinese narrative doesn't acknowledge, doesn't countenance a peer nation in Asia. On this, they are very clear. India's Viksit Bharat 2047 project doesn't claim preeminence as the Chinese do, and this was defined very categorically by Xi Jinping at the 19th Party Congress in October 2017, when he put it quite bluntly, in fact. This is about ascending to the top of the world. That's how Xinhua, our commentary described it. We don't seek that kind of preeminence, but equally we do not admit a subordinate station. So this is one contradiction. When we look at these two national rejuvenation projects which are unfolding in parallel, there is a fundamental contradiction there. That Chinese project is based on hierarchy, which will not acknowledge a peer nation. Whereas we will not concede hierarchy, with India being a subordinate power. Whereas we seek multipolarity in Asia. Chinese will acknowledge multipolarity globally, but they will never accept multipolarity in Asia. So there is a fundamental problem in two rejuvenation projects. Now, if we look at how this restorative project is being pursued, especially vis-a-vis India, with a lot of discipline, I will highlight 3 points there. One, military modernization, which has been, very systematically pursued. It predates Xi Jinping, but it has gained, more momentum. I think one thing is clear, that in terms of conventional gap along land borders, it's widening. And it's leading to a situation that, Admiral Rajamenon referred to, especially post 2020. Chinese have created a new normal, which is not accidental. The normal is a more militarized border where we have to keep troops deployed at a fairly high level. In a way, they have got us bogged down there. So our ability to deal with any maritime opportunities to that extent, our preoccupation with continental challenge diminishes that. Coming to air power, we have traditionally thought that there is an advantage. I'm not very sure that that advantage has been sustained. Advantage derived from terrain, but what all they have done in terms of creating a capability in Tibet, I'm not confident that edge is any longer there. In maritime domain, perhaps we have home field advantage. We have strategic geography, so we may have an advantage. But as Admiral Rajamenon also brought out, we are unable to sort of utilize that advantage, and it's getting eroded. Because China is pursuing a two-ocean strategy, where increasingly Indian Ocean is a natural theater of operation of PLA Navy along with the Pacific. And it's playing out in a very systematic manner, not only in terms of deployment of assets, but in terms of naval doctrines. So that's happening. This is one. Second, if you look at, our, move to nuclear domain. Ambassador Menon in his book.
今天这场讨论表面上是在分析中国的大战略，实际上更是在追问一个关乎印度也关乎整个亚洲未来的问题。当一个国家面对一个规模更大、发展更快、目标更明确的强大邻国时，究竟应该如何保持自己的战略自主？如何在竞争、合作与防范之间找到平衡？几位嘉宾反复强调的第一个重点是，我们不能再用过去的经验去解释今天的中印关系。几十年前，两国在经济规模、科技水平以及融入世界经济的程度上相差不远，边境维持和平，也为双边贸易和交流创造了条件。但随着中国快速崛起，这种相对平衡已经被打破，经济实力、军事实力、科技能力、产业规模、外交影响力，几乎每一个领域都出现了明显差距。过去那种依靠模糊共识维持稳定的办法，已经越来越难以适应新的现实。更重要的是，中国的战略并不只是军事战略，它同时包含经济、科技、金融、产业链、外交、周边关系、舆论叙事以及制度影响力。港口、贸易、能源、通信、人工智能、绿色科技和跨境支付，这些看似分散的领域，一旦被放在一起观察，就会发现它们可能共同服务于一个长期目标，那就是不断扩大自身的影响范围，塑造有利于自己的国际环境，并尽量在不直接爆发全面冲突的情况下，让对手逐渐陷入被动。这也是为什么所谓大国竞争不能只盯着边境线上出现了多少士兵，也不能只看某一次军事对峙的结果。真正的较量往往发生在更长的时间尺度上。一个国家是否拥有稳定的工业基础，能不能持续投入研发，能不能掌握关键技术，能不能建设独立而可靠的供应链，能不能让周边国家愿意与自己合作，能不能在危机发生时迅速动员资源，这些因素最终都会转化为国家的谈判能力和安全能力。讨论中提到的战略欺骗也值得我们特别重视，它不一定表现为公开的虚假声明，更可能是通过制造多个方向的压力，诱导对手把有限的资源投入到最显眼、最紧迫的地方。当一个国家长期被边境问题牵制，海洋布局、科技发展、经济建设和外交空间就可能受到挤压，对手甚至不需要在每一个领域都取得决定性胜利，只要能够让你疲于应付，就已经达到了削弱战略主动权的目的。但这场讨论同样提醒我们，不能因为中国拥有强大的综合实力，就把中国想象成不可战胜的力量。 中国的发展有自己的优势，也有明显的结构性困难，包括人口老化、经济放缓、内需不足、产能过剩、债务压力、创新转化效率以及治理体系内部的僵化风险。一个国家可以在某些产业占据全球领先地位，却不一定能够把这种领先稳定的转化为长期繁荣。拥有庞大的经济总量，也不等于拥有无限的战略资源。真正决定未来的，不只是数字有多大，更在于这个国家能否持续纠正错误，能否允许专业判断发挥作用，能否在复杂环境中保持制度的韧性。对于印度而言，最值得总结的启示是不能把希望寄托在任何一个外部力量身上。美国、俄罗斯、欧洲以及其他国家都有自己的利益和选择。当他们需要在中国与印度之间做出权衡时，印度不能假设别人一定会站在自己这一边。外部平衡可以争取，可以利用，也可以成为外交工具，但它有期限，也有条件。真正可靠的下阻能力，最终仍然来自自身的经济实力、军事能力、科技水平和社会组织能力。不过，增强自身实力并不等于必须走向全面对抗。两国之间可以存在竞争，也可以在农业、医疗、教育、绿色科技、金融发展以及多边机制中寻找合作空间。问题的关键不是要不要接触，而是接触时有没有边界；不是要不要合作，而是合作会不会造成关键依赖；不是要不要改善关系，而是改善关系是否建立在清晰、平等和可验证的基础上。没有边界的合作可能变成被动依赖，没有实力支撑的和平也可能只是暂时的停顿。边境问题尤其如此，和平当然值得争取，但和平不能建立在一方不断施压，另一方不断退让的基础上。模糊和拖延或许能换来短期平静，却未必能带来长期稳定。任何所谓的局部早期收获，如果绕开整体框架，牺牲核心利益，或者让争议从根本上变得更加复杂，都需要保持足够谨慎。真正成熟的外交不是为了宣布达成协议而达成协议，而是要确保协议能够减少风险、稳定预期，并且经得起时间检验。这场活动最后留下的另一个重要提醒是，我们必须保持批判性思考。分析一个封闭体系，往往只能依靠它公开发布的文件、讲话和政策行动，但这些材料本身也可能包含宣传成分。我们既不能完全照单全收，也不能因为不喜欢某种叙事就拒绝面对现实。最可靠的方法是把文件中的目标与实际行动放在一起，把公开表态与资源投入放在一起，再用长期结果去验证判断。战略分析最怕的不是暂时看不清，而是过早相信自己已经看懂了一切。归根结底，国家的自主行动空间并不一定要等到实力完全对等之后才出现，它更取决于一个国家是否清楚自己的目标，是否能够集中有限资源，是否愿意为长期建设承受短期压力。印度未必能够在所有领域与中国同步，也没有必要复制中国的道路，但必须形成自己的发展方向、自己的技术能力、自己的安全体系，以及能够让其他国家愿意合作的公共形象。对普通观众来说，这场讨论最值得带走的不是某一个惊人的数字，也不是某一句充满冲击力的判断，而是一种看待国际局势的方法。不要只看表面的输赢，要看结构；不要只看一时的冲突，要看长期布局；不要只问谁更强，也要问谁更能坚持，谁更能纠错，谁更能把实力转化为稳定和信任。未来的亚洲究竟会走向单极、两极，还是更加复杂的多极格局，仍然没有最后答案。但可以确定的是，任何国家都不能靠幻想获得安全，也不能靠情绪制定战略。那么在您看来，印度最应该优先补上的短板是经济与制造能力、军事吓阻能力、科技研发能力，还是外交协调能力？中国的大战略究竟会继续扩张，还是会受到内部压力的限制？欢迎把您的判断和理由写在评论区。感谢您的观看，也欢迎点赞订阅，继续收看更多精彩视频。